Hi, I'm Marco Carvalho, and I'm a director at RSM. I've gotten involved in blockchain probably around the end of the Bitcoin hype and Ethereum cryptocurrency hype, mainly because we started to look at blockchain as a good use case for the enterprise, and specifically supply chain, which is my background. So the Supply Chain SIG is a group for people, either startups, companies, enterprises, and so forth, to come together and really to share their experiences, learn more about what's going on in the industry, specifically around blockchain in the supply chain space, share use cases, any challenges they're facing, governance models, and just general technology that's part of the blockchain space as well, such as IoT scenarios and so forth. In the Supply Chain SIG, supply chain is a broad statement, it's very generalized, so it includes different industries in their supply chain, such as the pharmaceutical industry supply chain, the food and beverage supply chain, consumer products, retail, as well as manufacturing and industrial products. Blockchain is a team sport, and in our group we actually have the same principles. It's all about contributing, working together, leaving your ego at the door. Ironically, that's what makes blockchain successful, is when people do that, when people being companies and participants, in this case, a supply chain. Data and identity is a critical and important aspect of the supply chain space. When first blockchain started out and was being used for a supply chain, a lot of the major companies pretty much created their own blockchains and told all the participants what they had to do. As time evolved, participants in the supply chain blockchain have inquired and been concerned about their privacy and also the data that they share, or even how to share the data, because every company is siloed and has their own way of interpreting and storing their data. So when you're in a collaborative environment, how do you represent that data so everybody can understand it? So how do you standardize that data on the blockchain network of a supply chain? And how do you trust where the data is coming from and where the data is going? So that's why identity is really important. And each of those, data and identity, they actually have their own blockchain applications and frameworks, and they're evolving and changing on their own. So we'd like to get the latest and greatest information in those different endeavors and see how it's continually affecting the supply chain blockchain space. In the supply chain meetings, typically we have presentations from either different companies or individuals, researchers, that are presenting something about supply chain blockchain. However, we're looking for more participation from the participants to actually help come up with solutions around blockchain for supply chain. For example, data, standardizing the data on the blockchain. That seems to be something right now that there's a lot of interest, as a lot of companies are seeing the value of blockchain. Now it's about collaborating with the different companies and making sure the data is cohesive. In the Supply Chain SIG, we actually want to make sure people are on the right track, because we all are in the success here for blockchain adoption. We do know it's the future, and that's very important for people to feel safe and confident that they have the right platform. Privacy is also important. Companies want to know, what am I sharing and who's going to see my data? Who owns my data? That's very important. So a lot of the efforts have been put into being able to, in some blockchains such as Hyperledger Fabric, to privatize data and share with specific individuals in the supply chain. So we want to make sure people are aware of these options, because there's different blockchain frameworks that actually fit for specific scenarios. Our goal is not to pick a favorite. We just want to make sure people understand all the different technologies out there and what are the best use cases for those technologies. If you're interested in knowing more and joining the group, check the wiki, the Hyperledger wiki, and there should be a link right there to join the group, our mailing list. I go ahead and actually provide updates on when our meetings are going to be. You can also subscribe to the event calendar, and we would love to hear from you. Thanks for tuning in, and please leave your comments below.